I'm Jill Riley from The Current. I'm very happy to have a special guest. We're on Zoom, but also on the radio as well. Dave Gahan and Soulsavers. You just talked about Imposter, this new record of covers. And Dave, I have to say, when I saw that you had worked again with Soulsavers, I had this kind of warmness in my heart because I love their production style. I love that it's just such a classic, soulful gospel tinge that they add to what they do. And they did this song with Mark Lanigan in the mid-aughts called Revival. And when I hear it to this day,
one of my favorite songs. Right?
Yeah, I love it. I get this feeling. I'm not a super religious person, but I'd say I feel those spiritual moments through music, I think. And it's just one that it just gets me every time I hear it. And maybe it's like when it came out and what stage of my life I was at when I heard it. So I know that this isn't the first time that you've worked with Soulsavers for making records. So could you talk a little bit about the background of, I wouldn't say they're exactly a household name, but to people who are fans of electronica, they might be. But could you give us a little background on how you met Soulsavers and when you started working with them?
Yeah, sure. Well, everything you just said as well about Revival, for instance, and what that does for you, that it's informative. It's like music and song voices. For me, the voice of a singer or in a particular setting, atmosphere can inform me more about the way I feel about things than I don't know. I guess you could say religion and stuff like that. Music it moves the spirit. It can move this feeling you have inside of yourself that we all know we kind of have. And can be a little bit scary, and we try and block it out as much as possible. But with whatever we choose to use. But Soulsavers, I was listening to that record. It's not how you fall, it's the way you land. It kind of was like I was playing it like often, and at that particular time, I was in the studio. I think I don't know if I was making a solo record. I don't know what record I was making, but anyway, I was having a conversation on the phone with Martijn Lenoble, who plays bass with Soulsavers. Used to play bass in Porno for Pyros, and we were on the phone. We started talking, and I was about to go on the road. Oh, and it was definitely a Depeche record because we were going on the road. And he just happened to be tracking something for Rich Machin from Soulsavers, who at that particular time was Rich Machin and Ian Glover of Soulsavers. And it's a production team, really. And then Rich he kind of has all this pool of musicians that he uses to get to that kind of sound that as Soulsavers. So he just happened to be in the background kind of thing. And I said, we're looking for, at the moment, we've sort of got a big list of acts to open for us on this next leg on the tour. Like 3 months in Europe or something. And he just kind of yelled out to Rich on the phone, why don't you take Soulsavers with us? Take us on the road. And I was like, would you really want to do that? And I said, because that would be cool. Let me talk to Martin. We usually decide between us who's going to come on the road with us. And we usually pick a band or an artist that can do certain legs or whatever. It's tough to do the whole thing for everybody. And he was like, yeah, we'll do it. So I talked to Martin, and Martin was like, sure, yeah, let's bring. So they came out on the road with us for 3 months, Lanigan singing. And, we got talking in the hallways, as you do, before shows, after shows, and talked about doing something together. Rich and I got talking. And, you do that often with bands when you're on the road, especially if you're back in some hotel room or whatever. But, getting up to no good, and it's like, yeah, we should do something together, you know, in the future, you know, nothing very
nothing
often
usually comes out of it, right?
no, quite, but this time it did. I mean, you know, I got that, you know, maybe shortly after we finished the tour, you know, months and months later, Rich called me, and we talked about doing something together, and we started, I don't know, exchanging ideas, you know. He'd send me a little piece of music that was maybe some chords and a Wurlitzer or an organ or something, and maybe a little guitar part line. And I started to immediately, like you said with Revival, for instance, I'd start to, I don't know, hear these words bouncing around in my head and phrases. And I remember when Presence of God came, that was on the Dead Sea, and it just sort of came as a big chunk to this guitar line that Rich sent me. And I don't know, I felt something really moving in me that hadn't before. So yeah, we ended up making a record, and now this is the third of the trilogy, you know.
Yeah, and well, with this new one, I'm talking with Dave Gahan, a new record with Soulsavers called Imposter, and it's a record of cover songs. And you've got about a dozen songs here. Last night, I just spent a bunch of time with this record, and what I loved is that it sent me kind of down this rabbit hole, because I found myself wanting to look at, okay, who else has covered these songs, or I want to go back and listen to the original and then maybe listen to the cover again. So it was really fun to kind of sit down and dig into this thing, because you've got a bunch of songs, you know, some familiar, some I would say are definitely deeper cuts, some that I had heard for the first time with your covers. So then I wanted to go explore the original. So how did this list of songs? Yeah, how did this list of songs come together?
Well, it came from actually a very much larger list.
Yeah, right.
You know, it really was. When we first started talking about doing this, the idea was to find songs, artists, voices, for me, more importantly, that had somehow over the years carried me, been with me, stayed with me, and, you know, helped me to navigate my way through certain things, you know, informing me along the way of maybe the way I'm feeling. And, you know, so it was chosen very carefully in the end. And what became important and what I became aware of during this kind of pre-production of this record, where I spent a good few months singing these songs to myself over a PA system in my studio here, becoming really familiar with them and getting to the point where I was no longer hearing the originals that I had kind of had stuck in my, you know, psyche. And I started to feel like they were coming somewhere from deeper in me, in myself. And that's how I showed up to the studio. I was ready. And Richard already as well been doing his work with a couple of the guys from the band. And kind of pre-production stuff, just we were finding keys, tempo, feel, like kind of loosely. So once we got to the studio, we wanted to track all these songs live. We didn't want to spend more than a day on a song and all be in the studio at the same time doing it as a live band. And that's what we managed to pull off. The sequencing started to form for me quite early on. After we'd recorded maybe 7 songs, I knew that it was going to be key to how we listened to this record.
That's interesting about the sequencing, because, you know, when it's a record of songs that you've written with a band and you kind of know the story that you want to tell, it's almost like you're telling the story through a mixtape or something here. I mean, was that kind of the approach of kind of telling the story that you wanted to tell with these songs?
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't know that when we first started doing it, that I was trying to, I wasn't trying. It just sort of happened. I started to live vicariously through these songs. You know, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. Sort of telling a bit of a little story here. And that's what it felt like. It felt like sort of very cinematic in a way. And, you know, that the way that it sort of plays out, starting at the dark end of the street and ending with Always on My Mind was like sort of key anchors. Ending the first side of what I call the album with Metal Heart was key. And I wanted to start the second side of the album with Shut Me Down. Once we had recorded that, and then they started to fall in place. You know, it was after Lanigan's Strange Religion and Lilac Wine, Nina Simone is the version that was deeply sort of in my spirit, if you like. Going to kind of Held My Baby last night, which just felt like the right moment, you know, like it just felt like that's what you needed. And that's what, if I was on a stage performing right now, this would be the natural like feel of where you'd need to have this song kind of rocking a little bit now, you know. So that, yeah, the album sort of started playing out like it was a live set or a mixtape. Yeah, you're right. And hopefully that's what we're going to get to do. We're starting rehearsals in a few weeks and in London. And we're going to try and do some performances that will just be a showcase, basically, of this album, which I reproduce what we did in the studio on a stage. You know, and some people would say, well, that's tough. Are you only going to do the new album? Well, and if we do some encores, we'll put together something nice. But yes, we want to perform the album in its entirety, and I think that you'll get the right song at the right time if you're a real music lover. You'll sure. Get what you need in that moment. You know, if you were sitting there or, you know, listening, I think you couldn't help join in.
Well, we're talking about the new record, Imposter. It's a record of cover songs from Dave Gahan and Soulsavers. Can you just real quick before we wrap up, just that word imposter, you know, when it comes to a covers album, you know, there's kind of a cleverness there where it's like, okay, well, this isn't the voice that you're used to hearing, but it's a new interpretation. It's a new way of hearing the song and the lyrics or the feeling. You know, a song can have a different feeling. Things can change with a song just by what version you're hearing. But is there another meaning maybe to imposter? I mean, is that part of the story arc, do you think?
I think it became that, yeah. In the beginning, when I sort of said we should call this Imposter, you know, I mean, and Rich liked it, and then it developed more like Imposter's the character, you know, like, let's perform Imposter on stage, just make it about this record. The whole show is based around this character, right? So that was originally, that was kind of like the idea, you know. I guess as well, like the Johnny Cash records, you know, the American recordings that he did with Rick Rubin out at Shangri-La, actually, that was the way he performed those songs was very much like they were his own. I'm sure he'd never heard of Depeche Mode or Nine Inch Nails. Like, and Rick brought these songs to him, and he just he became those songs. And, you know, I mean, his version of Her, like, blew me away.
Right.
And that's not to diminish anything, you know? I'm not diminishing anything that Trent and Nine Inch Nails did with that originally, but really he took it to another place. And I kind of set that as the standard of, like, if I was going to do this record and we were going to do this, like, I'd have to become these songs. So, and the weird irony about this is, like, I felt more comfortable singing these songs than I think I ever have singing my own, Martin's, you know. There's definitely I've over the years, but in the first 10 years of Depeche Mode, I felt entirely uncomfortable, let's say, you know, stepping into Martin's shoes as a writer and trying to reproduce what he was writing, because I think I was trying to just, in the early days, hopefully please him, you know, as a writer, and that I was doing the song correctly. Then at some point, I think 10 years in, I started to realize I need more. I need more. I need to be able to sing this because it's coming somewhere from me. Mm-hmm. So I've got to somehow find a place. And then Martin started writing as well in a way that seemed like strangely for me as well, like through certainly some records. I know he wasn't, maybe once in a while, but like, you know, you know, you spend enough time with people in relationships, like, I don't know. I definitely have this chemistry now with Rich and Soulsavers, you know, the guys and girls in the band. And I felt really held there. So when I sang these songs finally down each day, it didn't feel like I was an imposter, actually. So I thought it made the title even more kind of like, I don't know, like tongue in cheek a bit, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's really fascinating that, you know, if we're able to take on a character, it's almost like we can find more comfort in just being ourselves and, you know, singing the songs that you love, singing the songs we love. It's really awesome. And so, like, I just feel like I can relate to you in just having this, you know, love for music, you know, and so many different kinds of songs that just make sense when your voice is on them. Like, that's the thing that ties them together. Dave Gahan and Soulsavers, the new record is called Imposter, due out on November 12th. I really enjoyed just kind of going through all of the songs and able to kind of spend time appreciating those songs. I'm so glad you brought up Johnny Cash, because I did think of that when I was listening to the record. I was thinking, I wonder what Dave thinks of Johnny Cash's version of Personal Jesus, because there is such a big difference between the Depeche Mode version and then Johnny Cash, you know, this man who had seen it all, a religious man, a man that was, you know, very, you know, much moving on in age, you know, closer to death than I think we understood. And to sing it with that kind of wisdom it took the song and it took it to this different level, just like with Hurt. And so I thought, gosh, I wonder what he thought of that version. And it kind of sounds like that felt inspiring to you.
It truly was. And also I feel, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do Not Dark Yet as well. And some of the other songs too, but there was a sense in me at the time, just having finished another huge Depeche Mode world tour as well, where I felt that I needed to recharge my batteries, and music often does that for me. Writing it and performing it, and you know, exchanging ideas with someone, like, you know, having that relationship where you're not sure why this is happening, but you're desperately trying to communicate with another human being. And, you know, and that being very difficult for me personally at times to really express the way I feel. But through music, I've always found that this is the key for me. And, you know, it's taken me years and years to get there. So there was a sense of, like, I was trying to sing through a sense of having kind of quite a large body of work myself and some experience there. And, you know, I've been to hell and back a couple of times. So I kind of, you know, I felt that it was very fitting. It just, the suit fit, you know. And then, you know, finding in like PJ Harvey and Cat Power and Lanigan and, you know, and Roland S. Howard, it's like, which I would call more contemporary artists, you know, even though some of them have been around for a long time too. But there's a similarity that I hear in the tone, in the voices, for me, that speaks to me. And I love that. I love when that happens. Like when you feel a connection, you're feeling someone's, their true spirit or something is coming through. For me, and of course that's different for everybody with different singers and songs and records and movies, you know, it's a big one for me. But I just was really moved by this whole process, actually. this time round, and felt very a little frustrated when we couldn't release it in the spring of 2020 when it was supposed to be first be released. But here we are, and there's something about having to wait that long as well, which is also giving it another kind of, I don't know, layer of importance isn't the right word, but something special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that the timing just feels right. You know, Dave Gahan and Soulsavers, the new record is Imposter. It's coming out November 12th, later than it was supposed to, but perhaps right on time. You know,
Right.
It's kind of one of those things where, you know, we let go of the things we can't control, and then things tend to have a way of working out, which I know that can sound simplistic at times, but I really do believe it. I'm so glad that you recorded a Cat Power song. It was cool to find out that you were a fan of hers, and you have something in common. You know, you've both recorded the song "The Dark End of the Street." I mean, there were so many cool.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, she did a version of that song. Yeah,
I did not know that.
It was cool to find that like musical connective tissue, that it's just one of those things that you don't plan for. But it's great. Your version of Metal Heart, I think your voice sounds great on it. And we've been playing it here at the Current. So I know that we've spent a lot of time talking. It really, thank you for taking the time to tell us about this record, to spend a little time with the Current audience. And again, November 12th, the new record. Appreciate your time, Dave.
Thank you very much. It was so nice talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, take care. We'll see you down the line, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.